Hello, good morning, and thank you for joining us today for our Energy Network webinar. The series has been designed as a knowledge sharing platform because we know how hard it can be to stay on top of the latest news, information, technology that's available alongside everything else that you're doing. Don't feel you need to take any notes or take it all in straight away. We'll be sending out a recording of the webinar, which you are welcome to share with anyone else in your organisation who you might find useful. If you've got any questions, drop them into the Q&A. I'm joined by Luke. Unfortunately, he's lost his voice, he's got a bit of a cold. So he'll be in the background looking at those questions and getting them over to me so we can have a look at them at the end. So yes, just in case anyone doesn't know who I am Michael. I am a technical architect for Bedroq, CISP qualified consultant, member of CISEC, the Chartered Institute for Information Security, and I've been doing this work for around about 20 years, working in the energy sector. So let's have a look at what we are doing today. This is one of our third or fourth series on cybersecurity, looking at why cybersecurity is important, the differences between IT and OT, which of course, you guys know more than most. And we've also looked at real world examples, and we've been delving into the kind of highlights of some of the regulation. And today we're going to be taking a bit more a deep dive into that. One thing we're looking at doing, just based on some people have asked us to do this, is have a look at what's going on in the news, what's happening, what are the learning points from some of those things, because that's the key thing, not necessarily about just having a look and see what kind of things we can have a look at. We're going to be looking at preparing for the Cybersecurity Resilience Bill, talking a little bit about that because that's coming up shortly. Then looking at a bit more detail at ways of building buy-in, having a look at policies and how you would be looking at putting those into practice. And of course, how can we help you in terms of supporting your preparation for a more secure and resilient business. And of course, what's coming up. So yeah, as always, we're here to help you manage your mission critical IT and OT. We work with a lot of high regulated organisations all over the UK. So yeah, as we said, last couple of webinars, introduction, real world incidents, and obviously we had a look at that high level UK regulation and what that might mean for the production, transmission and sale of energy. So let's have a look at what's been in the news. So obviously one of the most obvious ones right now today is from JLR, had an attack on its systems in September 2025. Interesting to some others, maybe not so much has come out in either news or in other areas that I kind of sit in terms of what's happened, what are the learning points from that, but certainly there's plenty of information that we do have and can share. Obviously designed to have a huge impact, designed to hit at a point would hurt the most when people are looking to buy new 75 plate cars, etc. Looking at some of the backstory behind it, looks like it was another third-party supplier chain hack via a contractor's Jira account, social engineering again. So two things that keep popping up: third-party supplier attacks, social engineering. It's coming along again. But this one was traced back to an earlier attack that happened in March 2025, alongside social engineering, like we said, to obtain credentials, gain access to IT systems. But in the case of someone like JLR and the connected nature of their sales, manufacturing, logistics, those types of things, then a decision was to shut down all of those systems in order to limit any potential damage. So yeah, as we say, no technical post-mortem is released, which as part of the community, we often would implore people to do if they feel comfortable doing so. It's not about finger pointing or laughing or anything like that. It's definitely about what can we learn, and as a community, how can we make sure that we are able to protect ourselves and each other. So yeah, hackers did claim to steal a cache of data, which later on JLR confirmed. They managed to get into their IT systems, managed to steal about 350 gigabytes of data, so quite a lot, third of a terabyte. Sadly for them, they had no cyber insurance. They were in the process of negotiating that, but obviously had not quite been solved at the point that the incident happened, losing £50 million a week, reportedly, with the knock-on effect looking somewhere to near 1.9 billion pounds on the UK economy. So absolutely huge. There's also the release of the NCSC annual statement, quite a lot in that document, but also really interesting, and also includes a really sobering letter from the CEO of Co-op. She gives an account on the impact that attack had on the business, but also their people as well, and some really good information in there. You can look that up, go and have a good read. It is really interesting, and also gives you some kind of backstory and information as to why, you know, the government, the NCSC, and obviously through some of the regulation, why some of the things that have been put into that are there. So yeah, another statistic, 204 nationally significant cyber attacks were handled by the NCSC last year, up to September, up 89 from the previous 12 months, so doubled. I'm sure people in the news and that type of thing, and just looking at what's going on, can see that type of thing is happening. You know, it's much more prevalent and is kind of on people's radar now. The other big thing, of course, the Cybersecurity Resilience Bill, and the main thing we're going to be talking about in the webinar. The first reading of that was done on the 12th of November. Obviously nothing too much to write home about that in essence, but the biggest thing is we had the first draft released for the first time for us to see, which has been really useful. No second reading yet / debate, but when that happens, obviously I'll be keeping an eye on that, and we'll be able to break that down and give some information to people as to what it might look like. So, but some of the key takeaways, most of them weren't a surprise, just because obviously there's been some things and some consultancy been talked about leading up to it. Which is really good. One of the first ones is that broader scope in terms of NIST regulations. There won't be a new NIST 2 or anything like that. The draft document talks about the changes into NIST, including new sectors, those that we expected, data centers, MSPs, and certainly some controls around that. So very specific what that means in terms of an MSP that has a data center that has multiple customers, which is someone like us potentially, and then somebody that maybe has got a data center that they just have their own kind of infrastructure and things like that in there. Another one, which is an interesting one, this is new, we weren't specifically seeing this one beforehand, was a new designation of a large load controller. So what that is an organization that manages significant electrical loads, typically over 300 megawatts. So that is what they call energy smart appliances. Now they do designate BESS. I don't know in what capacity, whether that's BESS in terms of energy production or BESS as in something that kind of sits alongside. We're not sure yet. Electric vehicle charging stations too. So any of those that are over 300 megawatts, or overall the amount of electrical vehicle charging stations you have exceeds 300 megawatts, you would come under that. So the definition of an OES, which we talked about in the last webinar, hasn't changed at this stage, but it does potentially mean that BESS and others and peak and flexible demand systems may potentially be subject to more regulation. And it's the next designation that is interesting for small suppliers of energy, and that's designated critical suppliers. As we said already, the supply chain is going to be something that's going to be really big. In the last webinars, we've talked about numerous incidents that have happened, and the vast majority of them, as we've already said, boil down to two things, don't they? They boil down to supply chain, and they're boiling down to people. So that's social engineering. So critical suppliers are coming in there. This new designation, though, doesn't really give clarity. It doesn't say of a specific size. It just says that an OES may have you be designated as a critical supplier. So that could be that as a small energy producer to National Grid may do that. We don't know that yet, you know, been quite clear about that. I think that is not fantastic, because I think in terms of small suppliers already are kind of like, oh, we're not really quite sure if we're suddenly going to be subjected to having to be aligning to the NIST regulations and CAF. We just don't know, and I don't think that helps right now. But rest assured, I'll be keeping an eye on that, and if there's any kind of information or any kind of clarity that we can bring to that, we'll certainly do that. There's going to be more tools for regulators. We already knew that. So The mandatory incident reporting will be much stricter, so much more like 24 hours in terms of your initial kind of reporting. With a full report, I think it's 72. So they're going to reduce that. Flexibility to update the framework. I think it's pretty clear that the Cybersecurity Resilience Bill is what you would call an enabling act or an enabling bill. So yes, there's some things in there that have got detail and some things that have got clarity, but there's some that have not. But that's down to their having that flexibility to update that. Again, may mean that it's not hugely helpful to small energy producers and suppliers. New executive powers. So they would have executive powers to respond to cyber threats when it's in the interest of national security. The ability to intervene, to be able to leverage costs for that, and obviously be able to leverage fines. Very similar to what it has been already, probably a little bit more detail. So it would be somewhere near £10 million or 2% of your turnover, whichever is the most, with that highest maximum for the greatest offences being 17 million or 4% of your turnover, whichever's greater. So there's some quite hefty fines still there. So let's move on a little bit. So far we've talked about ways of managing resilience and your cybersecurity in the last few webinars, and we talked about Cyber Essentials plus ISO 27001 CAF assessments, those types of things. So to those people who are like, oh gosh, that sounds, I don't know where to start, I don't even know where to begin. That's kind of what we're here for, to help you out. But in terms of the kind of things that we really want to be looking at, it's often around your governance. So what organizational cybersecurity and information governance have you got in terms of documentation? Do you have your information security policies? Do you have cybersecurity policies? Do you have backup policies and all those types of things? So those policies and strategies, roles and accountability, absolutely key. And that's the biggest things for board level really, is to understand that they ultimately have that accountability. Within energy, I think most people and every site I've been to, health and safety is extremely important. It's very serious. All the way up to board level, it's important. I got some of your sites, and the induction will often have a piece by the CEO of the company in some cases. That's how serious health and safety is on your sites, and absolutely rightly so. And it's the same with cybersecurity too. That accountability they can never give up. Yeah, there may be some roles, there may be some responsibilities that are devolved to others with expertise, same as health and safety, but in terms of the core accountability, still with them. Yeah, so looking at those different policies and documents, risk management in the same way as we look at risk management for health and safety as well. Also, the regulators are really keen to see that it's been taken seriously, and evidence really helps with that, and that includes meetings about it too. So in the same way as you might have to produce your health and safety meetings and have those briefings logged and noted and be able to show those to HSE, same here, having those meetings about it, having those meeting minutes and showing that governance in terms of cybersecurity in the way you would other types of health and safety as well. Yes, there are operational technical documents, absolutely, but it tends to be that people really delve into that bit of it without the governance. But yes, it is obviously important too. So you have got your documented guides, your procedures, asset and data inventories, patch management and your update management, and how often, and all the records and the logs that prove that that's been done. Also change management. Within things in your plan, you wouldn't go ahead and simply start doing maintenance or swapping out a piece of equipment that's faulty on site without some kind of documentation in place to be able to go ahead and do that. And it's absolutely the same within here as well. So any changes to our systems, whether that's the IT or the firewalls, or it's your PLCs that need updating, that should absolutely be done alongside change management and the documents and records that go alongside it. As we said in other webinars, you've got that bolt-on of safety and human life and environmental concerns to be looking at alongside the things that potentially would be nominal for an IT environment. And then obviously evidence of security monitoring and incident detection, that is also very kind of big and something that gets missed. Yeah, a lot of people may monitor things, and you may in your SCADA systems know whether or not a PLC is up or running or not, and you may know certain other types of information in that SCADA monitoring system. But are we actually having systems that are able to dive deeper, look at the information, what's coming and going? Does it look normal or not? How are we able to have it respond either automated or otherwise, or alert people to that? Having that stuff, having it working and be able to have the logs and produce and have the evidence is really key to the regulators, to prove that you are able to respond to an incident and be resilient, which is absolutely the key points and what the kind of legislation is looking to help with. Access management policies and records. So that some people might be thinking of the IT side again, how many people have logged on, how many people have done that, and that is part of that, but it also includes things at other levels around HR potentially. So staff onboarding and offboarding records, have they actually been inducted onto the system properly? Yes, the IT links into that, or the connectivity into that. So are your engineers and their logins all done properly? And when that engineer, if they leave, are they offboarded correctly to ensure they've been brought out of the systems? Identity verification processes, both in HR and also throughout the life cycle of them being there and identifying themselves on systems and in buildings to ensure that they are individually recognized and it's not just a general login. An MFA implementation as well, and the records for that where feasible and possible. We understand that potentially there can be differences between OT and IT in terms of what you would implement. Backup recovery and records, so your BC and DR plans and testing evidence, that's always really useful. And any evidence of tabletop exercises, backup logs and that kind of thing. I'll be talking about some of that in a couple of slides time. And supply chain management, so that alongside a couple of the other things I've mentioned is the next big thing that's coming through. As we said already, it's pretty much 99% of all incidents so far have come via supply chain, because a lot of businesses have worked really hard to ensure that their own security is good, but that means that people are deciding to attack around the edges, and that potentially is looking at supply chain too. So selection processes, risk assessments, third-party assurances from them as well, and we've talking a little bit about what you would expect from those people as well, and give you an indication of some of the questions and things that you should be asking of them. And staff training records, evidence of inductions and training, sounds obvious, doesn't it, from that kind of induction and onboarding aspect, but also evidence of refresher too. Are people getting refreshed on those processes, those procedures, and questioned and queried upon them, whether that's with regards to access and health and safety, and also that cyber side too. Are there any kind of cyber awareness training, and do people get refreshed on it? For example, I've got to do cyber refresher training once a year, and that's the same cyber refresher training as everyone else in our business, despite the all those things at the beginning I told you about of cyber assessing and things like that. I still do the same things because it's always really good to have those refreshers and those reminders to keep it in mind. But absolutely remember, organization leaders, they can place the responsibility for elements of cybersecurity on the people in the organization, which makes sense. But in the same way as health and safety, they absolutely cannot push accountability onto other people. They are ultimately accountable. So let's have a look at some practical steps. Improve governance. So establish those clear lines of accountability, ensuring that senior management and board are absolutely aware of their accountability. They're responsible for providing that direction, the guidance, and as I say, the responsibility for the high level policies. And yeah, the outcomes, responsibilities, accountabilities, they stem from that board and they filter through to everybody, including yourselves in your day-to-day jobs. And it should absolutely be part of your supply chain responsibilities as well. So if your outcome is to ensure that gas is available to 10 million UK customers, or to deliver flexible energy to 10,000 homes, and to do that safely and securely, then me, and obviously Bedroq, who I work for, we should absolutely be responsible for the same thing. Your criticalities should be mine as well. And it is. So yeah, ensuring that is absolutely key. And obviously that starts with third-party vetting. in the same way as you might vet your own staff and your own kind of systems and things like that. And review and update contracts with your suppliers and clearly define what their obligations are to you and their report and requirements are to you. It's really key. Assess your scope. Document your systems, your services, the clients, and your dependencies to understand what your attack surface is. So that's kind of where could you be attacked from. And sometimes people might, again, fixate on or really think about the techie stuff. So, oh, well, our attack surface is the internet connections coming in. It's the firewalls that are sat there, that we would connect through. But it could be other things as well. It could be some call center people somewhere. It could be a service desk somewhere. It could be that a third party's help desks systems are directly linked into you, and therefore actually that is an attack surface too. So we've really got to understand that, because it's not always as simple as an internet connection and a couple of firewalls. Strengthen your incident response. That, again, along with supply chain, is huge. Performing those tests and rehearsals is absolutely key. Exercising the response muscles, I think it's called. It ensures that you know how to deal with those incidents, and it also should include the who and how to contact any relevant authorities. Bear in mind, we said now that the actual time is going to be much shorter. And also, what's key is the big difference between IT and OT. And it has been proven when doing some of these exercises. IT-based risks, usually they're resolved by IT, aren't they? So we have a look at, what would happen if this went down or this system stopped working and these things are available. Well, IT would do this and they would change these things and they would invoke some backups and they would bring up that backup system. Very much IT. Well, when it comes to OT, obviously that generally requires much more people, doesn't it? And much more planning in order to mitigate those risks, because it's not just about that technical hardware, it's also about that real world, and might include things like physically shutting down systems. It might include all sorts of things to ensure the continual safety of the plant that you're working on. So it includes a lot more people required to perform those tests and rehearse incidents. And obviously potentially you might have some more complex playbooks because of that. And understanding, like I say, your incident response and your reporting, that is absolutely key as well. And what your compliance reporting would look like, whether that be the ICO, NCSC, Ofgem, and having that part of your business continuity plans, disaster recovery plans, and having them part of your exercises. So those are some of the kind of key points. So yeah, having a look at how we help people, obviously things like this, hopefully. I attended a SciSec conference as part of being a member of SciSec, and there were some really interesting things that came out of that for me over the last few days. Community as defense was one of those things. Being able to share information, being able to learn from each other, being able to say, actually we're doing this and it's really good, or we had an incident and this is how we dealt with it. It's really, really useful in terms of learning and helping each other out. Leveraging our collective experience, wherever that is, can help everyone grow and everyone's cyber resilience grow. Yeah, and speaking to you, and hopefully in Mays like this, do get in touch as well if there's any other webinars you want us to talk about, certain things or certain aspects. That's always really good. That's what this is here for, to help you out, and hopefully help you in articulating those risks, and by articulating what are the benefits of action are, really, which sometimes can be a little bit more intangible, can't they? It's not necessarily about protecting firewalls or protecting this or doing that. It's much more intangible, isn't it? It's going back to those kind of actual, what are we doing here? We're supplying energy to these many people, and we're doing that 24/7 all the time without any kind of movement of failure or anything like that. So yeah, as we say, we've been speaking to like a number of energy providers, those that maybe don't currently come under OES, and we're keeping an eye on the regulations so we can keep them consulted and informed on whether or not NIST might come under them at some point. But yeah, Just because you don't come under OAS doesn't mean that a cyber incident couldn't happen and wouldn't bring an end to your business. So yeah, one of the things that's really important to us is we can help you out. As we said, the readiness assessments, we've been working a lot on those with people as well, against agreed levels of compliance and working on people's documentation and things like that. So yeah, moving on from that, does anybody have any questions?
Hey Mick, let's just have a little look. I think we've had a couple of nice ones that have come through.
Oh, cool.
So first up, in day-to-day terms, what does the upcoming cyber legislation mean for energy organizations?
Yeah, looking at the draft at the moment, I think for bigger energy suppliers and those people who already come under OAS basically, so they'll know who they are, I think it's probably clearer, annoyingly, so in just making sure that they probably already have things in place and already have something, but obviously tighten up what kind of reporting would look like is probably the primary thing, and also the rigor in supply chain. That's probably going to be the biggest thing today. Supply chain expect to be trusted, don't they? I've come across that. When it comes to creating a secure connection, and we've obviously consulted on that in terms of some of the systems the central side of that we provide, and a bit of resistance from suppliers and from third parties when it comes to having their methods challenged. They expect to be able to just create a VPN, create a secure connection into a site. We just need to do that, and expect you to just be okay with that, without any kind of confrontation or without look, let's have a look at this and just make, what are you doing, how are you doing it, and actually challenging it. So I think that's something that suppliers are just going to have to be happy with. I think we're happy with it. We expect others to be too, and we expect you to be okay with challenging it. So that's probably the biggest thing. Smaller ones, a bit more difficult, like I said, whether they're going to come under a DCS or not. It's not got the clarity in terms of what constitutes an OAS or what's going to constitute a large load controller. So that's something I'll be seeking clarity from in terms of the next steps and the second readings that are going to be happening in government, definitely.
Great, thank you. Next up, what are some of the most common gaps that organizations you've helped have discovered when they begin preparing for these sorts of assessments?
Sure. So as I said, in terms of all of the assessments, certainly the low-level ones are more practical. So, can you tell us what types of PCs you've got and what operating systems they have? And we all know that if you've got any of the Windows 10, that you simply won't pass that, and that's Cyber Essentials. Once you start stepping much out band of that, but even in Cyber Essentials as an element, it's that governance side. Really. I think boards expect to be able to just pass off all of it's IT's problem, or it's the people on site's problem, or whatever it is, or it's for them to sort out. So a lot of the governance side and the governance buy-in, but the governance kind of high-level policies and direction, I think is the biggest thing that's missing. Definitely.
Great. And just one more. What does your, as in Bedroq's, readiness assessment involve? And can you tell us how long one might take?
Yeah, cool. It kind of depends on people's level. It would generally consist of a consultancy. If we're starting off and just collecting everything, and I'm just going through this at the moment with a certain business, it looks somewhere around like a 10 kind of day-ish consultancy. But that would look in terms of a bunch of workshops, and that would be with the board, it would be with a bunch of other people in the business. And from that, we'd be looking at that initial information gathering at the beginning, as we said already, those points that those 4 points I put through. It would be kind of stepping through some of those to a matter of fact, but it does kind of depend on the business and things like that, really, and what their regulatory obligations are / aspirations. But yeah, it would tend to look like that first, that initial consultation, speaking with the board, looking at what evidence and policies and documentation and governance that you've got and how that kind of filters through. And are you actually doing what you're saying you're doing in those documents and policies too? Yeah.
Thank you, Mick. That's all the questions we've had today.
No, that's cool. And obviously, if anyone does have like, oh, I'm a little unsure, we're not even quite sure if we would, if we went for an assessment today or tomorrow, we would be in a position to be able to have the confidence and be able to do that. Then yeah, get in touch. We can have a look, assess what level you're at, and have a look out how we can help out. But yeah, thanks for that, Craig. So yeah, our next webinar will be in February 26th, into a new year. So yeah, hope everyone has a good Christmas for those people that celebrate that, and we'll see a bunch of you in the new year. Obviously, if you do want to reach out, you can reach out to Luke. As I say, bless him, he can't even talk today, so he is listening, but he's not in a position to talk. So, but no, get in touch with him, and obviously we'll organise some time, come and see you, come and talk to you about your requirements and what you need from us. We will obviously again be discussing latest information, and also maybe an update on the cyber resilience bill, all being well. So yeah, a reminder again, the follow-up for email and recording, that'll be with you tomorrow. Do send it out to people, because again, it is that sharing that we really want to get people to be doing, and being able to share what's going on, and hopefully get everybody thinking and singing off the same hymn sheet. So yeah, thank you very much, and we shall see you all next time.